All right, welcome everyone. Today's presentation is part of the Culture Builds Communities webinar series. This community-based project is designed to help Native communities plan and develop cultural facilities. Culture Builds Communities is a project of the Association of Tribal Archives, Libraries, and Museums. Major funding is provided by the Institute of Museum and Library Services and the National Museum of the American Indian. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hey, thank you. So I'm Carrie Beauchamp. I'm here speaking to you from the traditional lands of the Piscataway people near Washington, D.C. and the Potomac River. And I pay my respect to the elders, both past and present. And I really thank you for inviting me to meet with you today across the miles, wherever all of you are. We were saying before on a lot of Zoom meetings these days. But to me, it's still kind of amazing that we can reach out across the country to see each other and to be together in some kind of odd way. And it's great to see you today. So we're talking today about the collections at the National Museum of Natural History, which is part of the Smithsonian Institution. And I won't spend too much time on this part, the org chart. But the Smithsonian is a collection of 18 museums. That includes the NMAI, the National Museum of the American Indian, and several others. We're mostly located around Washington, D.C. And although we're all federally funded and are connected in a kind of administrative way, we're each run independently, and so we have separate collections, separate buildings, and separate staff. So the Natural History Museum, if you've been in DC, the tourists generally know it as that one with the elephant. Here's our building downtown, or the one with the dinosaurs. So people know about our nature and science collections, but a lot of people aren't aware about the cultural collections that we have in addition to that. So that would be in our Department of Anthropology, which is what we're talking about today. And so we care for art and artifacts from historic and prehistoric cultures around the world, including and especially the native and indigenous people of North America. A side note, we also have the National Archaeological Archives, which is our colleagues down the hall, and they have collections of sound recordings, film, field notes, photographs, lots of photographs. And so a lot of our researchers and visitors that are coming will do their research in both the archives and the object collections. But how you search and access their collections is slightly different, so we're mostly talking just about the object collections today. But if you have questions about them, I can probably answer about the archives too. So the collection, going back to the objects, we care for a collection of about 600,000 objects or lots from around the world. Our major collections are North America, obviously, but also South America, Asia, Africa, the Pacific. And North America makes up about 43% of our ethnology collection. We're especially strong in the Arctic, Southwest, and Plains areas. And we have over 257,000 lots in North American archaeology from all over the United States and Alaska. Yeah.
I think your audio seems a little off. I don't know if maybe you need to speak like a little louder or if sometimes it's a little distorted. So
okay.
I'll kind of hands up if it starts doing it again.
Yeah, because I can't do this. Is it blipping out or just kind of?
It just gets really quiet sometimes, and so maybe you just need to talk a little louder. So.
Okay. It might be me. Maybe I'll talk louder.
You're fine. Thank you.
Okay, so a quick history of the collections. I won't get too far into this because it's a lot, but the Smithsonian has been collecting museum objects since it was founded in 1846. And so it's been 170 years since then, and the collection has been growing through private donations, transfers from other government agencies, and museum-sponsored fieldwork. At first, we were all one museum, the National Museum, and then the Smithsonian split off into all these other museums that we saw earlier. And then there were a few private museums, like the High Center, that were acquired by the Smithsonian. That became the National Museum of the American Indian. So that's how we have both the American Indian Museum and the Anthropology collections in these two different museums. They sort of came from different historical collections. We also have the collections from the Bureau of American Ethnology, which was founded in 1879 as a separate government agency for, is the government-sponsored research bureau. The founding director was John Wesley Powell, and he immediately expanded the Bureau's mission to include multi-year field research and collecting expedition and archaeological surveys. So over time, they amassed these huge collections of North American artifacts and art. And those were all well-documented collections with their field notes and publications that are now in the archives. And these were passed along to the museum until it was until the BAU was absorbed into the Department of Anthropology in the 1960s. So this is why our collections, a big portion of it is from this time period, from around 1880 to 1940. And also why they can be very heavy in one area of the country and sort of not as much in others. So it really reflects where these particular people were working at the time and they were collecting rarities and attitudes.
Hi, Carrie.
Yeah.
One more time. So sorry. You might take your earphones off if you can.
Do you want,
maybe just do computer audio. Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Is that better for everyone else? Kind of let me know in chat if you can.
Should I repeat anything that I missed?
Maybe, does that sound okay? Stormy says that sounds better.
Better? Oh, good. Okay.
Okay.
I'm not looking at.
I think we're good. Yeah.
Okay.
People can hear a lot better now. Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Good. Thanks for letting me know because I don't know.
No problem.
So I just wanted to point out a little bit of the history to acknowledge that although we talk about the collections and generally we see the collections as a reflection of the cultures that they represent, their beauty and their brilliance, and reflecting the resilience of the people that they come from, we also recognize the flip side of that, that the collection as a whole is a artifact of settler colonialism, and that that's the reason that all these things are together in one place. And that can be really hard to encounter, and it can be a complicated feeling when you're in the collections, even as it can be inspiring as well. And so that's something to keep in mind when you're visiting the collections, especially in person, but even also online too. Does anyone have questions? I didn't even stop for questions yet about the scope or the history, and then we'll get into searching collections and visiting.
You might just kind of do like maybe a brief overview of what you've talked about so far, since the audio was a little messed up.
Yeah, let's see a second. Oh, how far back do you want to go? So there's the Smithsonian's org chart. So we're a separate museum from the NMAI. The collection is large. That's me in the background. Usually it doesn't look like this with all the drawers open. The history of the collection, it goes back about 170 years. And collections came in from all different private collectors and government expeditions and transfers from other agencies, but also, and especially from the Bureau of American Ethnology, which was collecting, from around 1880 to around 1940. So that's where a big chunk of our collection is from that time period. What else did I say? I think that's it. Okay. Are there specific questions right now? No? Okay. So um, so the collections now, they're here, they're still here. They're here for you and for your communities. We do frequently loan out objects to other museums for exhibits, and I will get back to loans towards the end because that's a little more complicated. But mainly the collection is here as a reference and a research collection for the various communities that we serve. So those include researchers, so visiting researchers, people who are writing scholarly articles, dissertations, students writing papers. These could be anthropologists or linguists, art historians, anybody who has a research interest in the collections. Of course, we also have artists visiting the collection. Artists come to study the techniques, the materials, motifs, so that they can continue their artistic traditions and teach it to others. Contemporary artists sometimes see the collections as inspiration for taking their art in new directions. And these are, to be honest, some of my favorite visitors. I always love to see what they say about what they see in the objects that they're looking at. And then, of course, there's families and communities that are documenting their own histories, their cultures and languages. Sometimes there are people coming on their own who are interested for their own reasons, or they're coming with a community group that's arranged through our repatriation office or the Recovering Voices program, which I'll talk about again in a minute. So we welcome you to the collections, both in person and online. The best place to start is on our website, which has most of the information that I will be saying today. So maybe I'm a little redundant in that way. And I'll talk about arranging a visit. Right now, the museum is closed for the coronavirus, the pandemic. So, and we don't know when we will be reopening the museum. We are actually closed even to staff, and we will not be open before the end of the year. So possibly sometime next year, but I don't have any sort of date. But it's a good time. We're all working from home, as you can see. And so you can contact me or any of our museum staff with questions. Or, you know, it's a good time to look at our records online, plan a visit, see what we have. Request a couple of loans, why not? And let us know if you have questions. So, planning a visit. So the best place to start is our website. The address is up here on the top. And from there you can search the collections, request an appointment, request a loan. It also has information about all the projects that the department does. Let me switch to the actual website. You're seeing the website? Yeah? I hope so. Are you seeing the website? No? Serious? Hold on.
It hasn't pulled to a web page, so.
Hold on. Now? Okay. Great. So here's our website. Lovely new website. And if you scroll down, we have the outbreak exhibit here at the top because everyone's interested in pandemics right now. That was good timing. But usually visit the collections and archives and search the collections are right up here at the top. You can go straight to search the collections or planning your visit and click on that. And this has some of the logistical things you need to know, hours, the address, and then you see the link for request an appointment. On the form, you you can fill out with your name and your contact information, obviously. And then you can list specific objects that you want to see, either with catalog numbers that you found in the online search, or just describe what you're looking for. And I get these. So if you send this in, I will see it and I will reply, and I can send you a list of everything that might be of interest to you. And then if you have a very, very, very long list, you might need to narrow it down before you visit, depending on how many things you want to see and how much time you have. And then optional is a project description. And I find that helps us sometimes if we know why you're looking for specific things. It helps us to find more stuff that you might want to see, or to match you up with staff members who might have overlapping interests with you. So, and then of course your dates. Right now we only have really 2 people who assist visitors, so if you can give us several weeks, especially if you can fill this out before you've made your travel plans, that's very helpful. That way we can be sure to find specific dates that work for everybody. And then of course, click I am not a robot unless you are a robot, in which case do not, and then submit. And that will send the form to me, and I will, usually I reply within a day. And then once you have your form in, and we'll email back and forth to set up specific time and let you know about the logistics and everything. So let's go back here. And I'll talk a little bit more in a bit about your actual visit to the collections. Back here on the page, sidebar, go away. Here on search the collections, click on that. And here we go. So you can read the introduction. I don't recommend it. Then go to keyword search, and this will search most of the fields in our database. Oh, I should say all of our collections records for active archaeology and ethnology are in this database. So if we have it, it's in here somewhere. The trick is to find it. So you can put in a keyword. I'm just going to put in Pupa, search, and this will bring up a bunch of records. Can you see my cursor? Or no? I use it to point at things. Not really? Okay. So sort of on the bottom corner here, it shows you how many records we're seeing, 498. Let's say that's too many. So I can change my search to put in basket to narrow down and search. And you can see we have many, many baskets. So for any of these, we can click on the little plus sign. Well, if you hover on it, it will show you a picture. If you click on it, it will make it will open up the full record for that object, including we have scans of the catalog cards for these items, and then any photographs that we have. I'll say that about 70% of the North American ethnology collection is photographed, so you will get a good preview, usually, depending on what you're looking for, of the collections that we have. Except for if there are some that we have photos or we don't have photos, but they're culturally sensitive, so they're not online. So those, if you know you're dealing with something that might be culturally sensitive, you could contact us, and we might have more information that we can send you that we don't want to post online. But the record for that object will be here. We just want to have the pictures online. So Yeah, let's close that one. Oh, I should have also said, when you see the photos, you can just click on them to make them bigger. You can also right-click it. You can save these images. You can save them, use them however you like, send them to your friends. They're there for use. So that's the keyword search. This works pretty well if you're searching on a word or a phrase that has a unique meaning. It doesn't work so well sometimes when you're using a term or a word that has multiple meanings. So like if you type in crow, it's going to bring back things that have crow in the culture column, but also things that have crow in the object name, in the place name, site, even maybe a person's name, and they'll be all mixed together. So that's not a great keyword search term. But you can search by field. You can see the tabs below. Search by field kind of breaks down the fields a little bit better. So we can put crow in there. So search, and you can see them pop up on the top. Culture, the caveat about culture is especially in the early days of collecting, the collectors and the curators didn't always keep track of exactly where they got things or who they got them from. And so sometimes they used terminology that was pretty vague. So for example, we have things that are just listed as Chippewa, and that is of course a huge territory that covers, in Canada and the US. And if there's no additional information about where it's from, there's often not really a good way to figure out exactly which community that item is from, if it doesn't have any sort of unique identifying characteristics. So if you're searching for a specific community, definitely try searching on that community. But if you're not finding anything, one thing you can do is to broaden your search and then see what's there and see if you can use other clues to kind of narrow it down. That can be kind of tough when you're really trying to drill down to a specific place. If you're looking for archaeological collections, they're often not attributed to a specific culture group. They're more cataloged by their geographical location. So let's put in, Rock County, Wisconsin. Oops, got in the wrong box, see? Search. So this doesn't have to be, the words don't have to be in any particular order. The computer is just saying those words in any order. Again, you see on the side how many things we have, and the little plus sign. If it's dark, that means there's a photo of it available. You can also click the only records with images, and that should narrow it down just to the things with pretty pictures, which in archaeology is not nearly as much. You can only take so many pictures of potsherds, I guess. Although we're working on it. Ooh, lovely. So that's geography. So yeah, you can also mix terms. So like if you put in, well, no, let's put in homo and object type. Let's just say basket and search. So that's going to search for pomo and basket in the same record. We have a lot of those. That's why I picked. Oh, and one last one. So the other field you might use is people. So people could be a donor, a collector, or the maker. I will say that the makers are often, they weren't listed in the records unless it was somebody kind of famous. So you can try searching on those, but that the people search tends to work better with collectors and donors. So maybe. So does anyone have questions about searching collections? I'll just make sure because I kind of rush through it sometimes. So once you have, if you find things that you're interested in seeing in person or in just keeping track of what you're looking at, you can either write down the catalog numbers. Those catalog numbers help us, match that specific object. If you come to me and say, I want to see the basket with the handle, I'm not going to be able to find it. So write down the catalog numbers. You can also select items, or if that little button on the top will select all. And then if you export results as CSV, that will put sort of the very basic version of the record in CSV. Are you seeing a pop-up window? Maybe. Yes? Okay. Let's save that. And then when you open that again in Excel, it will be a nice list that you can use for keeping track of the items that you looked at. You can, this Excel is yours, so you can put notes on here, you can subtract things, add things, send this to your friends, your research collaborators, whoever you want. This is also handy if you're planning a visit. You can send this to me and I can find all these objects before you get there, so I can be ready to help you when you're there in person. We'll close that back out. And yeah, so if you're searching the collections, if you can't find what you're looking for, or if you have other questions, you can always email me. This is my job, is to help people find what they need for their work. So I'm very happy to help you find what you need. And I know the records are a little wonky, like a lot of the time. They are very wonky. So if you're not finding it, it's probably not you. It's probably old record and bad record keeping. Sorry. But I'm here to help, so let me know how I can help. If there are no questions about searching, I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. I can, I'll get back to the other screen. Oops. We're back on the PowerPoint. Okay. Hold on. Being awkward here. Okay. Great. So some logistical things to think about if you're planning an in-person visit. The museum is downtown, obviously, in Washington, D.C., but the collections are located in a building called Museum Support Center, which is in Suitland, Maryland. It's about 20 minutes away. There is a free shuttle bus that goes from the museum down to Suitland every hour when we're open. Or you can take a cab or the metro or drive or however you like to get there. And when you make an appointment, of course, we'll send you more information about the shuttle and directions and all that kind of thing. But it's just to let you know that when you're making your travel plans, there's a little bit of a commute there. We're open business hours, so Monday through Friday, 9 to 4:30, except for federal holidays. This building, the Museum Support Center, this is kind of a sidebar, but just to let you know, the Museum Support Center is home to a lot of different Smithsonian collections. So there's dinosaurs, there's fish, there's contemporary art, meteorites, all kinds of things. Anthropology is in sort of one wing of the building, and the other collections are in different wings of the building. One of those is the Archaeological Collections. So there are human remains in the building, but there are separate protocols for access to those, to the Archaeology collection. So unless you make a specific appointment usually through the repatriation office, you won't see those collections, and they won't be in the same room. But they are in the same building. So that's just for full disclosure. That does make some people uncomfortable to be in the same building. So they are there. But again, I never see them. They're behind closed doors. So once you're at MSC, you're assisted by one of our friendly staff members, usually me, because there aren't that many of us, or one of our curators, or maybe one of our staff from either Arctic Study Center or Recovering Voices, or repatriation, if you're doing a repatriation visit. And our staff, we have set aside the time to assist you in any way you need, so don't be shy about asking questions or requesting whatever you need. In general, we take visitors directly into the collections to look at objects. So occasionally, there are things that people do not want to see. So let your staff person know if you have any concerns about that. We do keep anything sacred, ceremonial, funerary, or otherwise sensitive objects in separate labeled cabinets so that you can choose for yourself whether you feel comfortable seeing them before we open any doors. Similarly, if we've been informed that there are certain objects that are for men only, women only, they will be in boxes or cabinets that are labeled that way so that you can decide what is appropriate to see. The usual rules for working in museum collections apply, designed for the long-term safety and preservation of the collections. So, no food or beverages in the storage area, and we'll ask you to leave any larger bags in the lockers that are in the office area. But you can bring in laptops and notebooks and cameras and things that you need to do your project. So the museum staff person that's with you will help. We'll let you know which objects are safe to handle, or we can handle them for you if they're fragile. It depends on how fragile the object is and what kind of materials they are made from, that sort of thing. We do make exceptions to our usual procedures for certain cultural practices. For example, if we have had visitors ask if they can leave offerings with objects, or request to move an object to a ventilated cabinet so that they can breathe. And requests like that, whenever possible, we're happy to honor those. So just let us know what we need to do. We also have a room specifically set aside for visitors if you need some time, some quiet time during your visit, or for prayer, blessings, songs, and smudging. So let us know if you want to use that area. What else? With the exception of certain highly sensitive objects, you're welcome to take photos and share them with your friends and family. And of course, we ask, and of course, you can take any pictures that you need for your own research or your own projects. If you want to do a longer term project, especially if you're a student or you're from a community that wants to arrange for a group visit, you can check out our website about fellowships and visiting researcher grants, or just let me know and I can kind of direct you to who to talk to about those. Actually go back. One program in particular I'd like to kind of call out is the Recovering Voices Community Research Program. They sponsor short-term travel for community groups who are doing language, arts, or indigenous knowledge projects. Usually it's a small group of elders or teachers or artists, and they come to Washington, D.C. to study collections, Smithsonian collections, and then bring their experience back to the community in some way. So right now, of course, travel is not happening, so we're not doing visits in the near future, probably for the next year. So the Recovering Voices staff is really thinking now about how to sort of reprogram their program to be more digital. We're hoping that that can actually give us an opportunity to reach out to more people, who can't necessarily travel, or you have a whole classroom full of people, you won't necessarily want to travel with that many people, but we might be able to do something virtually. So if you have any ideas about that, definitely reach out to RV because they're looking for excuses to try some new partnerships on that. So, this picture also shows our Arctic Studies Center staff working with a group that's visiting. So they're another program office at Natural History that does a lot of these kinds of visits specifically with Arctic communities. So does anyone have questions about visiting in person? It's kind of a lot. And it would be so much easier if you were in person to kind of show you, because then you would be doing it at that moment. No questions? Okay. Cool. So loans. I'm going to go back again to the website if I can. Even though I'm super awkward about switch.
Okay, Carrie, there is one question.
Oh, great. Okay. Shoot.
Is a researcher card required?
No.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have so many researchers that I can't imagine trying to have a card system. Nope, you just fill out, if you fill out the visitor request form, that gives us enough information that, we have your name for the, our front desk has a list of the visitors for the day, and your name's on the list. They check you off, and you're good to go. And they give you a little badge for the day, but it's not like a card. Next, so loans. Okay, so back to the website. I keep saying go to the website. Obviously, definitely contact me if you're not finding the information you want, but really we've tried to put everything out there so that it's easy to find. You scroll down, you're seeing the website, right? Yes. I'm gonna assume yes. You scroll down, oops, under here you see loans. Click on that. You get to the loans page. This beautiful samurai armor. That's that picture's from the National Geographic Society Museum when they had a samurai show a few years ago. It's neither here nor there. So almost all of our loans are to museums who are doing exhibits, partly because loans are so expensive to do that. It's usually it's for a big exhibit. So anything you read on here is going to be sort of geared towards you're doing an exhibit. We do consider other kinds of loans, but they'll require some, back and forth with the curator and the conservator about, how exactly they want.
I think baby is ready for a party.
If you scroll down here, you'll find all the that you need.
He sat on his.
And the conditions document, that will take you through, it describes the whole process. Let's see if we can open that. Including how to request the loan, how to calculate the costs. That's a big one. And then general guidelines for couriers and insurance, all the boring details. You'll need the general facility report, blah, blah, blah. And this has really all the details, but if you have questions, the best person to ask about this is Allison Butler, who is our registrar. I'll put her email up. Actually, I'll put it in the chat in a few minutes. I'll put it on the slide so that when you post the slides, it'll be on. So that's the conditions for exhibit loans. The conservation guidelines are things like the temperature and humidity specs. They're technical specs about security and lighting and materials to use or not use in cases and brackets and things like that. The one you really, really want is the preliminary loan request form. And that one, it's just a Word doc. And that one will sort of summarize your proposal. Let's pull it up. Here we go. I hope you're seeing it. And who are you? Who's what institution? What is your proposed date to ship the items out? When are they coming back? Which ones do you want? The budget. So this is sort of describing your whole plan. And it's only 3 pages long. It's not a big long one.
Hey, Carrie, I don't think the document is showing up.
Oh, well, it's okay. It's you can pull it up on the website if you want. Basically, it's just a Word doc that says, who's requesting it, what objects are you requesting, and what kind of program or exhibit are you doing with the objects, and what are the dates. The dates are actually probably the most important thing we need to know, because we do request that any proposals come in at least 18 months in advance. And if you can get in earlier, that's even better, because we have a very small team. Right now we have 1 registrar for all incoming and outgoing loans, and 1 conservator who's not even a full-time employee. And so, if we can only have a certain number of loans going out at any given time. So the farther in advance you can request it, the more likely you are to be at the front of the line. And it really is, the proposals come in at different times, so we're not even weighing them against each other. It's really it can be first come, first served, to be honest. So the proposals come in, they're evaluated by a committee at the museum that's made of curators, the conservator, the registrar, and the collections manager. And basically they're looking for, are these objects stable enough to travel? Is the proposed exhibit or program, is it, you know, is the environment going to be safe for the object, both in terms of security and the environment, the lighting, that kind of thing. And then, of course, we'll also weigh a little bit the importance of the object to your exhibit or to your community or, you know, to your program. But again, a lot of it comes down to, you know, do we have the capacity to take additional loans at the same time that you're proposing? So can I say it one more time? Get them in early. The registrar would want me to emphasize that like 5 times. So, because we really do hate having to turn down loans, but usually that's what it is we can only do so many at once. So from there, the committee will approve the loan, yay, or deny the loan for some reason, or often they will ask the registrar to go back and ask the borrower for additional information, if there's some information that's missing that we need to know. And then, of course, from there, there's additional details to be worked out in the final loan agreement that we'll just work with back and forth. I should also say, by the time you send in a preliminary loan request, most folks have already kind of contacted either one of our curators or staff or the registrar to kind of talk through, you know, what do you think? Is this plausible? Is this a good, you know, proposal? And that kind of helps having somebody on the inside kind of helping you to shepherd it through the whole process. So it is useful to contact somebody in advance just to let us know what's coming, and that can strengthen your proposal as well. So does anyone have questions about the loan process? I'm not usually involved in that process, so if you get into real details, I might not be able to answer, but I'll definitely try. I know NMAI is doing a lot more community loans, and we're doing far less of those. We would love to expand that in the future, but we don't have any funding for it. So mostly it's exhibit loans again. Sorry, did you have a question?
I don't see any, there's no questions about loans yet, but there was kind of a follow-up to the researcher card required, and that are tribal IDs an acceptable form of identification?
Yes. Hold on, I'm going back to the PowerPoint. Yeah, any sort of ID to sign in at the front desk, which is some kind of photo ID. It should be, yeah.
All right, thank you.
I don't know that I've ever tested that though. Gosh, I sure hope so. Yeah. If anyone gives you a hard time, I will fight them. Other questions? Oh, last slide. No. About
I have a question.
Okay, great.
Does the American Indian program still exist within the Department of Anthropology?
Not as a separate program. It's kind of been reabsorbed into, you know, the department.
Yeah, I've been trying to reach my old professor from Berkeley, Joellen Archambault.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I cannot reach her. In fact, I was there in February. I even went to the museum twice and went to the guards desk down below on the Constitution Avenue side. And I tried email, phone calls, nothing. Is she still working there?
She is. I haven't seen her in a long time, to be honest. And I hear she shows up like at really odd hours, like
Oh,
in
yeah,
the
she's
evenings.
always done that.
Yeah, in the evenings and the weekends. Yeah, I I could try to pass along the message that you're trying to get in touch with her, because I think there are certain people in the department who are in better communications with her than I am. But
Okay,
yeah, she's notoriously hard to get a hold of, so it's not you at all.
yeah. Oh, no, I didn't think it was me. I just, um, anyway,
Did
but
you
yeah,
did you try
if you
voicemail?
want, huh?
Or did you try voicemail?
Oh, I tried everything. And then I even tried her home phone and that seems to have changed. So I don't know. But
Yeah, I don't know. All I can tell you is that yeah, she was still around, just
okay.
being hard to get hold of.
So maybe I could, what, email you with a request to give her a message or something?
Yeah, it's really hard right now because since we're not in the
Oh, yeah.
building, somebody would have.
Right. Okay.
But I can pass it along to somebody who like is in touch with her at home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any questions related to the presentation? Well, it was amazing. I learned a lot. So thank you.
And thank you so much, Carrie. So yeah, if there's no other questions, I will make sure that this webinar is placed on our website, and a copy of the PowerPoint and any links that Carrie had. And we actually do not have a webinar next week on the 30th. So there's a week break, and then we'll see each other the week after that. Thank you again, Carrie. And
Thank you, everybody.
I hope everyone has a great rest of the week.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.